Subject options. All the subjects available in your country, stroke, state territory will be listed for you. That's part of the system setup. And on the options at 16 page, but also in the PDF, subjects are rank ordered based on a mix of aptitudes, and that's mostly shape but a bit of level. I'll talk about that later. Interest, personality, and any careers which are favorited in the careers tab. And you need to decide which subjects to present to students. I'll talk more about that as well. Now, in terms of level, what we've done is where students are average ability or below, any subjects which are scaled up are demoted in their list. They're not removed, they're just demoted. And the logic behind that is that when we didn't do this, we found there were a large group of students who had a technical kind of profile, largely because their verbal was very low. So their ability might put them in the bottom 30% of the population, but their verbal would be very low. They had a technical stroke practical area of interest, and what was happening was the system was pulling out maths methods, chemistry, physics for them. So what we've done is we've introduced this barrier, so if students are average ability or below, then scaled up subjects are demoted. It seems to work pretty well. Now, there are a lot of vet subjects, and I'm thinking here specifically about Victoria, and they can dominate a list if all of them are available. So if you have 35 of each, by default, if you've got a list of 12, you'd expect 6 vets, 6 VCE subjects to be listed. And the PDF in particular lists only the top 12 in terms of suitability. So it would be quite normal for students to get a large number of vet subjects listed for them, even if it's unlikely they're going to take more than one. Another thing to point out is that there's coding behind the suitability of subjects, and the coding behind a biology, a health and human development, a PE is all very, very subtle. So it might well be that you get just a few categories of subjects listed because they're all pretty tight in what they do. And this impacts the online presentation, so the PDF presentation, far more than the online. With the online, you can just scroll through and pick the ones you want. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and we'll have a look at an actual example. So I'm going to Settings, Subject Options. And we have initially some text that you're in charge of. You can decide what goes in here, but I've put this in just to point out that neither maths nor English are forced into the list. So English would be one that clearly students have to choose in Victoria, but maths may not be in there. So it's not a case, particularly in a printed report, of this is a list of 12 from which you choose 6 or 7 or whatever. And if you have more than one exam regime, so if you're running IB as well as VCE, etc., then we can accommodate that. There's simply a switch and students can get a list based on their VCE subjects and a list based on IB. So on this page, if we scroll down, we see a list of all the, in this case, VCE subjects running into vet subjects because it's alphabetical, and VisCom sits alone at the end there. And what I've done is I've said I don't want sport and rec, but I also don't want small business operations because we don't offer that. So I'm going to submit this. Then we go back to a candidate, and I'll just grab someone and we have a look at their list. We're not going to find either of those 2 subjects listed here. You can scroll them down, they're all here but not those 2. If you wanted to find them and add them, you just simply type in vet at the bottom, and here we go, so small business. I'll add that in and that will appear up the top here. So what do? Well, it's really up to you, and maybe we chat about this before you install it. In general, my advice tends to be, unless you offer it in-house, don't list it. This is not the only source of information students are going to get, and what we are looking for is we're generally looking for a list of, in Victoria as an example, VCE subjects plus a couple of vets for the more academic schools from which most of the students would select. If you're a school that is very involved in vet clusters, you might keep a lot more of those vets available. You might choose to leave them all on, or you might choose the top 15 or 20 that students do from your school. It's very much a personal decision. End of module.